Anybody know what a chipotle pepper is? No? You all know what you've all heard the term chipotle, right? It's a smoked what? Jalapeno. It's just a jalapeno pepper. It actually does not have to be smoked. It can be grilled and still be a jalapeno pepper. I have a funny little story also I get to name drop. You guys watch Bobby Flay much? Yeah. Alright. I did a show with Bobby last year, and in the show, Bobby and I trained at the same place. I'm fond of saying that he trained where I did, and he's fond of saying Jamie who. Anyway, in the show, I did a grilled jalapeno, chipotle if you will, cornbread. Now, not cornbread like we think of it in the South, but I actually made a bread flour, a regular bread flour, to which I incorporated 30% masa harina, or corn flour, which you can buy. You pretty much buy it everywhere now, but it's a Mexican. Oftentimes you'll see it labeled as instant tortilla mix, but it's basically just pure corn flour. Anyway, in that recipe, the recipe that Food Network has posted on their website, I called for 5 jalapenos. On the show, when I made the bread, you're nodding. Did you see it? What I'm talking about? On the show, when I made the bread, I only put 1 jalapeno. And Bobby was over at his station, and I was at my station. Bobby goes, hey, you only put 1 jalapeno. And I said, well, before we went on the air, the producers told me that this whole thing about you and spicy foods is totally a put-on, and you actually can't handle it either. He said, oh yeah, watch this. And you remember? And he picked up the jalapeno and ate the whole thing. He's like, we'll be right back. What you didn't see is while we were at commercial, he chugged 3 glasses of milk and a cold beer. So, if you ever get a chance to see Bobby Flay, you can talk to him about it. Pork shoulder, one of my favorite cuts of meat. If you watch, again, I'm going to reference back to Food TV. If you watch much Food TV, a lot of times you will hear cooks that profess to have a classic French training, and they will, and maybe they do, indeed, maybe they do, but they'll talk about, when I got my first job as Chez Panisse, the chef told me, before he would hire me, go make me an omelet, because the test of a true chef is whether he can make an omelet. Well, basically the term I like to use for that is poppycock. The test that you would more often than not get is, here's a chicken, here's a pork butt, here's a piece of chuck, here's an onion, here's a carrot, here's a potato. You've got 90 minutes, make me something I will never forget. The point of that being, and in America, we tend to think, and this is not in any way, shape, or form of criticism, we tend to think when we grill, or not so much when we barbecue in the South, but when we grill, we tend to go for a ribeye, a filet, something succulent, tender that's going to melt. Pretty much anybody, unless you have the IQ of a ground squirrel, can take a filet and turn it into a delicious meal. But you will know, once you elevate your game, that these cuts of meat, because they require the most cooking, are the most succulent, the most flavorful, and the most juicy cuts of meat. Hence why I'm giving you another humongous clue as to the trivia, right? Hence you know why we use it for barbecue. So, I've got this beautiful pork butt, the front shoulder. We've removed, you can see maybe a couple of knife slashes here. We removed some of the silver skin. The fat we're going to leave on. We like this because of all the connective tissue, all of the collagen in there. And now I'm going to rub it down. Assuming, of course, I can find my chef might give me my spice or beauty. Now, you notice I didn't wash my hands? If you guys do me a favor and don't say anything about that little particular incident to the next group that's coming in, because sanitation is important. Alright, we call it a dry rub. Why do we call it a dry rub? Anybody know? Alright, I suppose if you walk around here today, I guarantee, and indeed with Chef Mike and I, we have a huge difference on this. He likes to baste his with mustard before he puts the dry rub on. Some people like to rub them down with vinegar. Some people like to soak them in beer. Some people like to, you go on down the line. Me, I like to take the meat out of the refrigerator, let it come to room temperature. By room temperature, I don't mean if your house is 90 degrees, let it come to 90 degrees. I mean to take the hard shell off of it, put the rub on. Another huge source of debate. And I will say this is one place where Bobby and I do agree. One of the only places where we agree. A lot of people say, well, I put the dry rub on, right? Maybe they wanted it. I don't know who wanted it. I'll put the dry rub on, I'll let the meat sit for 24 hours, 36 hours, and then I'll cook it. Some people, me being one of them, Bobby Flay being another, I put the rub on the stove and go, right? Because that rub, some of it will permeate the flavor of the meat, but that rub is basically only going to permeate the bark. What gives you that great succulent flavor on the inside is the moistness of the meat. This meat also being a little bit different, you notice I'm putting a lot on it, right? This meat being a little different also, that we don't sort of work along the same rules when we're going to cook to a medium well, a well done, a rare. All those rules go out the window. When you're cooking a piece of meat like this, whether it's in the smoker, which is what we call the South barbecue, whether it's in your oven for Sunday dinner, does anybody know the temperature, the minimum temperature we want to reach? No, let's call that temperature of the oven. Temperature of the meat. 160 is safe to eat. 165. Where we want to cook this meat is 190 degrees minimum. The reason for that is 190 degrees is the point at which collagen melts, connective tissue melts. That's the point at which it all dissipates. That's the magic figure. And you reach this point when you're cooking this meat, you're going to overcook it. You're going to go like the well-done meat where it's going to be, oh God, it's dry and yucky. You let it go another 10, 15 minutes. You get to that 190 degrees, and then all of a sudden it's like the meat goes, okay, I surrender. Just like that, lays apart, begins to fall apart, begins to shred, and that's when it gets up all its goodness. This is going to go into that smoker right over there, and you're going to have a taste of it in just a couple minutes. Does that got any questions? Out of one.